So, hi everyone, and welcome back. In today's video, I am going to be interviewing Priya, who is a data scientist at a startup called Drizly in the US, and who studied physics when she was in college. So, her journey is really interesting because she switched her career after completing college, and I think many people would be able to gain useful insights in this video. So to gain the most out of this video, I hope you all watch it till the end. And also just to remind you, please like this video if you find it useful and also hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow.
So, hi everyone. We have Priya with us today. So, Priya, before we get started, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. So I am a data scientist right now, and I went to the University of Chicago where I
Mhm.
majored in astrophysics. And that was 4 years of college. And then since then, the last 2.5 years, I've been in the field of data science. So, and I also like, for fun, post on YouTube and like, try to have a life.
Yeah. All right. So you went to UChicago. That's quite impressive. And I I myself applied to some colleges in the US, and to be quite honest, the process wasn't quite easy, and the results weren't quite as what I'd expected they would be. Because the application process and the admissions process in the US is quite dicey and it's quite unpredictable, if I had to sum it up in one word. Now, where did you yourself go to high school and how did your college application process work out?
That's a great question, and you're so right, it really is unpredictable. So, I grew up in America, like, I grew up in New Jersey, but we actually moved back to India, so I went to high school in
Hmm.
Hyderabad in India, and then I went to a boarding school the last 2 years of college. I mean, the last 2 years of high school. So,
Hmm.
I went to Kodaikanal International School, and that was 11th and 12th grade, and before that, I was doing CBSE in a school in Hyderabad for, like, 4 years. So I would say, like, because I had kind of a background, like I went to school in New Jersey until sixth grade, I kind of had like a bit of both of the worlds, like the States
Hmm.
and India. And the college application process is really dicey. What I've realized and like what I try to distill, like when I talk to people, is that your application, it's not just your grades. And that's something I realized like in India, there was so much emphasis on what your grades are and how
Yeah,
much you get on, like one test.
yeah,
And
exactly.
things like that don't actually matter in the real world. Like it's about who you are as a person. It's the whole process. And that's why I think for college admissions, essays are so important to show them who you are and your personality. It's not
Hmm.
about showing them that you deserve to go there because your grades are going to speak for themselves. Like if you've done well
Exactly.
and you've put in the effort, yeah, your grades are going to speak for yourself. But what they don't know about you is like who you are as an individual and what you can bring to campus. And I think that's where I kind of had a feeling that like I read my friends' essays back in the day and I was like, guys, this is kind of bland. Like they know what your grades are, like they know you're interested in like having like a good professional life, but who are you, right? Because I know my friends so well and they're such interesting people and that's what you need to get across in your essays. So I think that's where like I got really lucky because that's what I did. So the college
Hmm.
admissions process, like it went well just because it was like such a simple thought, but I was like, they need to know who I am because like
Yeah.
everyone brings good grades, but like I can bring like myself and no one else is going to be just like me. So that
Hmm.
was my thought process.
And uh, thank you so much for sharing that. And also, I noticed that you have a completely detailed explanation of the entire US application process on your YouTube channel as well. So if anyone's interested in that, they can check that out as well. I'll link it in the description. And uh, I know it was a long time back that you applied to the colleges, but do you remember the other colleges that you applied to, and why did you choose U Chicago above the other colleges?
Yes, yeah. So I went through the college application process a little wrong because
Hmm.
I kind of just looked at like the top 10 list and I kind of just applied to the top 10, which I think that that's what you're told to do from a
Yeah.
young age, and that's not what you should do. You should do research into the colleges and see
Hmm.
where you'd be the happiest. And I got really lucky with UChicago because I was so happy and I fit in and I made the best of friends. And I live in Chicago right now. Like I hung out with them this weekend. So I really did make the best of friends. But so I just kind of applied to like the top schools
Hmm.
that I've heard of in the past and stuff. So I applied to the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn,
Hmm.
ED, and I got deferred. And then I got waitlisted, which was kind of ironic. Like they said maybe to me twice, but it was all for the best. So I got waitlisted there. I got many waitlists actually, and I got several rejections. But the schools I was choosing between were the University of Chicago, Berkeley, and Georgia Tech,
Hmm.
and UCLA. Those were like really the four schools. And out of all of the four schools, I love that the University of Chicago, they're just so like research heavy,
Yeah.
and it's like a very like intellect, they're very like they pride themselves on intellect more than anything. Like they suck
Hmm.
at sports. They really like they're mostly just like a school where you go to do research and a school where you go to meet like your professors are like Nobel laureates. Like in the econ department, that's what it was like. So and the physics is absolutely stellar. Like we have the director of the dark energy survey teaching astrophysics like
Oh
to
my
us.
God.
And it's insane like the amount of data we have access to because of who our professors are. So I
Hmm.
had a feeling that like UChicago was just the right place for me because I was really between UChicago and Berkeley. But then I think like like UChicago was higher in the rankings. It was like a top 10. And
Hmm.
then B, UChicago is smaller. So the class sizes are smaller,
Yeah.
which you have more face time with the
Yeah.
professors. That was really important to me.
Nice. Thank you. And uh, how uh, how was your experience at U Chicago? And another question is, why did you choose to study physics? Like, why did you choose to major in physics? Yeah.
Yeah, so I loved the University of Chicago. I would say it wasn't easy, like,
Hmm.
but college is not going to be easy because you have to figure out your entire life, like personally and academically, in four
Yeah.
years as a child. Like, I'm sure you understand, but
Yeah.
like when you're 18 to 21 or 22, like you're an actual child. I still feel like a child and I'm 24. So I would say it was very difficult because you just don't realize that like you don't have to have it together. And like
Hmm.
getting a C in one class is not a big deal. Like I'm telling you, I have my fair share of C's in classes that were
Hmm.
just so difficult at the time because balancing everything is hard. And then when you go to a school and you're doing physics, which is like the hardest subject you can choose,
Yeah.
right? It's like literally like ask anyone and like I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, physics is like the hardest thing ever. So I loved my time, but that's not to say I did like academically amazing the whole time. Because like the
Hmm.
first year I started, it was rough. Like I was struggling, and then I found my way over time because I started doing things that really mattered to me. So not just
Hmm.
classes, but outside of class, like I would go running and like I would hang out with my friends, and I tried to create like a more balanced life. And
Hmm.
that's what U Chicago taught me because it was so difficult, but like I figured out how to deal with that difficulty and it makes life so much easier now.
Yeah.
Like nothing really phases me anymore, which is really nice. And I chose physics because growing up, physics is like everything around us and everything we see, like the financial markets, it's all based in physics. So like
Uh,
everything we do in this world, all the fundamental roots come from physics. And I guess I always thought that like it was the biggest thing, right? Like, and specifically astrophysics and cosmology, you can't get bigger than the origin of the universe.
yeah.
So I think that was really what drew me in. Like I would read, like,
Hmm.
well, maybe not read, but like more look at the pictures in all of like Stephen Hawking's books when I was like
Yeah.
a child, and I was like, this is amazing. And my parents would take me to the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. They took me like every single year for like 3 or 4 years because I was like, this is so cool. And I knew that like it was just so interesting and it was the biggest question we could answer. And I wanted to
Hmm.
be a small part of that big question. So that was the initial like reasoning.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Even my reasons were quite similar to the ones that you mentioned. And so let's fast forward to today. you're done with your college, you're done with everything. So what are you up to nowadays? Like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I ended up not pursuing a PhD, which I
Hmm.
always thought I would do that. And that's kind of what you're taught when you're in physics, that you
Yeah,
have to become a researcher.
yeah.
And over time, like especially at UChicago, a lot of people would go into like the business side of things, like they'd go into consulting or they'd go into technology. And
Hmm.
there were so many routes that I saw my friends taking. And I realized after 4 years that I love physics so much and I will always love it, but just because you love something, it doesn't mean you have to pursue it for the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
I wasn't going to make the biggest impact in physics. I knew that. Like
Yeah.
I'm more of like a communicator. Like I love talking to people. I love
Hmm.
solving problems, but I was never going to solve the problem of the origin of the universe. Like and it wasn't satisfying to me
Yeah.
knowing that I would never get to the end because I love solving problems and that's what data science is, right? Every project I work in data science, like
Hmm.
as a data scientist at a tech company, I'm given a problem and I get to solve it in whatever way makes sense. And I have
Hmm.
full autonomy over my research, over my projects, and I solve such interesting problems that like it's exactly what I wanted to do in physics, but I found it in data science. And physics paved the way for me to go into data science because physics is so difficult. And like all of astrophysics is based in data, right? So
Yeah.
I took a lot of astrophysics classes where I learned like all of Python and all of like the complexities in Python. Like we didn't just
Mhm.
learn how to clean data. We learned how to analyze it to like such a like granular degree that it
Mhm.
felt like I learned data science in my physics classes and it's very easily transferable. So that's kind of why I didn't do physics and then why I kind of fast forwarded into data science. There's actually a lot of overlap
Mhm.
between like the problem solving and data science like across industries and astrophysics and what I learned there. So that's what I do now. I work as a data scientist for a tech startup called Drizly
Mhm.
and it's a startup under Uber. So that's kind of the vertical slash industry I'm in.
Right. Thanks. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like many people say that they might go into the field of data science or data analysis, many people think that that industry is like the work is quite boring and quite monotonous
Yeah.
because you are just and because in our first year I think when we did our first Astro Labs, we were quite excited because we were finally getting to do some work in labs, but it turned out to be just analyzing data for a couple of weeks, and we just had to figure out the errors on all the massive amount of data that we had, and we just had to do that. And to be honest, all of us found it quite boring. But is it actually like that in the data science field? Like, is it actually boring, or do you actually enjoy doing the work as well?
Yeah, so that's a really good question because it really depends, like, on the class itself and what the syllabus
Hmm.
of the class is, like, for you. Because, like, I actually had the opposite experience where everyone loved it so much when we were learning it. So I would say it depends on the class and it depends on your company and your industry. So
Yeah,
going into that, data cleaning is extremely important. You have to learn how to do that.
yeah.
But I think what I find, I love data science so much. Like, I work on such interesting problems. And like, I think once you get to the machine learning side of things, it blows your mind the amount of stuff you can do with the data you have. Like, an example that we did in astrophysics in college, we had like a data set from, I believe it was the dark energy survey, and we had like a bunch of data about
Hmm.
stars and about galaxies, and we had to build a binary classification model to predict whether it was a star or a galaxy based on the data we had. And like
Hmm.
the fact that like in mass amounts we can just process data from telescopes and tell you whether something is a star or a galaxy, it's just so cool. And that was just the beginning, because now I'm in the industry. And I will say, like, my first job out of college, I was at a company called Nielsen, and Nielsen
Hmm.
does TV ratings. And I had many times while I was working there, it felt monotonous. I was like, I should be doing more interesting things, and I can do more. I can make more of an impact. I should
Hmm.
have autonomy. Like, I don't care that I'm like 22 or 23. I know I'm good at this and I deserve to have that impact at a company. And I left, right? Like, I left to a company where I have that impact now. Like, my manager is actually a physics PhD. So it's really cool. Like, he's a physics PhD and he hired me, and like we have the best time ever because he gives me full autonomy. He's like, "Hey Priya, this is our problem. We're trying to figure out how to prove that like advertising on our platform online, like we have an app called Drizly, right?
Mhm,
So he's like, how do we prove that advertising on Drizly actually leads to sales, not just through the app, but in store? Like if
mhm.
someone sees like, so Drizly's,
Yeah.
we deliver alcohol, right? So it's like,
Mhm,
if you're, I guess like for Bud Light Seltzer or some like sort of popular alcohol, if you advertise that specific product in store, I mean, in the app,
mhm.
like you can see that it's going to increase sales in the app, obviously,
Yeah.
right? Because we
Yeah.
have that data. But how do we prove that it's increasing sales in store more than it would have? Like you have like an average amount of sales you get from the store, but then
Yeah.
how do we know that there's an actual lift in sales because of that advertising? So
Mhm.
that's a machine learning model, like
Uh,
because we have to predict what the sales would be without advertising and what the sales truly are with advertising. So we have the data on what the sales truly are. Like there's like an intervention period where the campaign starts, right?
mhm,
And then we have data for the next 2 weeks of how much it sold because of the campaign. But how do we figure out how much it would have sold if they didn't advertise? You know
mhm.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
a lot of math and like machine learning that goes into building a model that can give us like, you know, what it was without, what it would be without the campaign and what it truly was with the campaign with
Mhm,
advertising. So like, and that lift, like that difference in those two lines when you plot it gives you how much you actually made in store because of the campaign. So things like that actually hasn't been done in the industry yet.
mhm.
It's like
Yeah. Exactly.
such complicated stuff. And like my manager was like, "Hey Priya, figure it out." And like I'm figuring it out. So it's super cool.
Yeah, because on the surface, what people think about data science is that you just open a Excel spreadsheet and you just add stuff and you just see what is happening. But in reality, it might actually be really cool with all of the coding and machine learning that is included in it as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. It really depends on your company too, though,
Hmm.
because like a lot of people I know, like they are on Excel, and I hate that. Like, if someone made me analyze data for the rest of my life, but I
Hmm.
couldn't do anything with the data, like I couldn't build a model for the data to extract insight from it and find out like new things, I wouldn't be happy. So, like,
Yeah.
there's always going to be like roles that like are
Hmm.
going to be boring. Like I won't
Yeah.
lie about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you have to put in the effort and you have to be better. That not to say it's a competition, but you have to be like better than than everyone else applying so that you get
Hmm.
those good roles. Like you
Yeah.
have to work for
Exactly.
it, but you also have to seek it out.
Yeah. And many people say that, and it is true to a certain extent as well, that physics is a major that gives you access to almost every single industry, except maybe medicine and biology. And do you think that it is actually true? And do you have any regrets at all that you studied physics back in college?
That's a great question, and that's something I try to talk about a lot because I'm sure you understand, but yeah, everyone always says that research is your only thing
Mhm.
in physics, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. Like I absolutely do not regret anything because like majoring in physics, that's a lifelong thing that people will always be impressed by. I'm telling you, like you could be 30 going into an interview and they're like, "Wow, you majored in physics. That's so cool." Because most people don't do that, right? Like it's so difficult.
Mhm.
So I absolutely don't regret it. Physics taught me how to learn and how
Mhm.
to solve problems and
Yeah.
how to approach like the scientific method. And I think that physics really opens the door for everything because like I have never felt like I was at like a detriment being like a physics major. I go into interviews, like I've also interviewed for like consulting, which is
Mhm.
definitely more like the business side of things where
Yeah.
like it's usually the economics majors that end up going into consulting. But I
Hmm.
went into consulting and like I had no problem. Honestly, after physics, anything is easy. Like I walked into those interviews and I was like, this is all you want to know? That's easy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It really prepares you so like for the most difficult thing, so
Hmm.
that once you go to other like things, like everything is easier than physics. It feels like, at least for me,
Hmm.
that's what it felt
Yeah.
like. So it really did open the door to every single industry, like consulting, even finance, like
Hmm.
quantitative trading. It's all based in physics principles. Like all of those models you see, like the machine learning models in
Hmm.
quantitative trading, it's based on like stochastic methods from physics, like random walks.
Yeah.
That's like the general process of like every financial model you're ever going to see. So like no door is closed when you're a physics major.
Yeah. That's good to know, and that's quite reassuring as well. So coming to now, you're really moving ahead in life with everything that's going on right now. What are your plans for the future, if you have any right now?
Yeah, I do. So I think about that a lot actually. Like I really care about like trying to make an impact wherever I can, like
Hmm.
with my life. Like I feel like in whatever capacity that is, like I really want to do that. So right now, like at my company, I love it. I just started like 4 or 5 months ago and
Hmm.
I definitely want to stay. Like I love my work, but in the future, I do want to be like the founder of my own startup. Like that's my
Hmm.
ultimate goal because I love building things and I love creating things. And that's why I started my YouTube channel, even. Like, I
Hmm.
just wanted to do something that like could help people. And I
Yeah.
think that with with the future, I want to go to business school. Like that's like I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I do want to go to business school and get my MBA just because I
Hmm.
think it's a great opportunity to meet the right people and
Yeah.
like have the credentials to have like the right like backing, like because a lot of like venture capital funds love that
Hmm.
you went to Harvard Business School, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to a school like that, like it gives you a lot of like credentials. And I
Hmm.
think going to the
Exactly.
University of Chicago, like I have the credentials already. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I need to get an MBA,
Yeah.
but I think it would be beneficial for me and also
Hmm.
easier than physics, right? So it'll be a
Yeah.
fun 2 years if I get an MBA, but I want to start a startup or I want to be on the executive level at a startup. Like I want
Hmm.
to be the director, I want to be the CEO. Like I
Yeah.
want to be on that level telling people, like not telling people what to do, but giving the company direction and
Hmm.
having the ability to do that. So it's probably going to be a tech company. And that's why I'm in data science right now. Like I always knew this was my ultimate goal to like be the founder of a startup or be on the executive level making a difference. So
Hmm.
really fundamentally understanding data science concepts is important. Because like if you look around at all of the successful CEOs, they all come from engineering backgrounds. They don't
Yeah.
come from econ. They don't come from business. They're all engineers. They're all like physicists or scientists. And like
Yeah.
those are the people that change the world. And I think that I wanted to cultivate that background of like being very technically adept, but
Hmm.
also learning how to communicate the technical stuff and really relaying the technical to how can we use the results of this to benefit the community. So that's my goal. Like, and that's like, I think communication is important in everything you do. And that's like what business is, right? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Exactly.
cultivate those skills now so that in the future I can really like take charge and like someone actually lets me lead a company.
That's ambitious, and I really wish you luck with all of that. And thank you so much, Priya, for doing this again. Do you have any final words of advice for people who are either applying to college or who are either about to graduate from college or who are finding jobs?
Absolutely. I would say that honestly, like don't stress out too much because I have stressed out my entire life and I get stressed out like randomly, like even now, even though everything is going well, and that it
Hmm.
doesn't go away. Like it'll never go away, that kind of stress. So you need to learn how to like balance your life out as early as possible. And that's something I started cultivating in college, but like I'm telling you, like that 1C that you got, or if you failed a class, it won't follow you. Like I've done all of
Hmm.
it, right? Like I've done well, but I've also done really, really bad. And
Hmm.
all of that, like those failures, they're going to make you a better person. Cause like if I never got those C's, if I never failed a class, like I would not be who I am and where I am today. So you
Exactly.
need to yeah, find the balance and don't think that other people are better than you or other people are smarter than you or have more
Mhm.
money than you. It's not about them. It's about you being better as you grow older.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't just beat up on yourself too much. That's all I'll say because I've done it and it's not worth it.
All right. So thank you so much again. I wish you all the best with your future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely.